What's up, everybody? This is Lynch World, and today I will be talking about a foreign movie, a little movie from Thailand that has not gotten as much recognition and praise as it should have. It needs much more exposure, but unfortunately, things are going to remain the way they are, so what can you do? But this little movie that I'm talking about is called Last Life in the Universe, a movie by filmmaker Pinek Rata. A Thai filmmaker. I'd say one of the most well-known. Well, maybe in this day and age, I guess. But yeah, it's a film from Thailand. It's a fantastic romance film. Not only is it my favorite Thai film, it's one of my favorite romance films of all time. And I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a while because I just bought the poster and I just bought the DVD and watched it again recently and remembered why I loved it so much. So yeah, I'm going to be giving this movie a little spin, and yeah, let's go into it. So for the story, we have two characters. We have Noi and Kenji. Noi is a pretty fucking good-looking woman. She is a pot-smoking woman who lives in a beach house and has recently lost her sister in a car accident. And Kenji is a Japanese man working at a library who's hiding in Thailand because he's had some kind of affiliation with the Yakuza back in Japan. So, you know, the man's just hiding out to stay safe. But regardless of that, aside from Noi losing her sister in an accident, Kenji is a strange character because he's suicidal, not because he's depressed or anything like that, but mainly because he thinks in death, solitude and paradise awaits. So basically, he spends a good chunk of the movie trying to kill himself to find paradise. But the thing is, every time he tries to do so, he gets interrupted. Now, many people may think like this is fate telling him that something greater than that lies ahead of him. So, you know, death is not the answer, maybe at least not yet. But, you know, for this movie's sake, of course it's not the answer. He has something, you know, waiting for him way down the line. But aside from that, that's pretty much the gist. Now, how the two characters meet? Well, the night where Noi's sister dies, unfortunately, is the night where Kenji was supposed to kill himself by jumping off of a bridge. But he was kind of the cause for the reason. Well, it's not totally his fault, but he was involved in the reason why she was hit by a car in the first place. So it was only respectful of him to give Noi give her a shoulder to cry on during that moment. So because of that, they kind of not necessarily hit it off, but that's where the story begins with the two of them. But anyway, man, shit goes down. Shit that makes Kenji stay with her. About his affiliation with the Yakuza business. His brother gets him into some deep shit when he comes around his house. He brings trouble with him, and unfortunately, Kenji is introduced to even more trouble. So, as a result, I guess he just his best option was just to bunk with her at her beach house. And the thing is, Noi lives in a big-ass beach house. It was just her and her sister. You know, this beach house is huge. And the fact that her sister is now gone, the loneliness is starting to set into Noi. You know, she's alone for the first time. She's never been alone. She's always had her sister. So with that, you know, with that in mind, of course she's going to be willing to let Kenji stay with her in her beach home while she mourns the death of her sister. And not to mention that Noi herself is involved in some pretty funky shit as well, like an abusive boyfriend or guy friend or whatever the fuck. You know, it's just that kind of thing. These are two lonely, abused characters who just need to find their solitude. Kenji needs to find his solitude not in death, and Noi needs to find her solitude in something that's not lonely, you know. So this is the perfect match. This is the perfect way to deal with the situation. And hey, that's how the two characters come into contact and pretty much come into play in The Last Life in the Universe. Now, let me clarify on what I said about those two being the perfect match. I mean, these are two broken characters, and they come from two different places. You know, you're wondering, how can this be perfect? You know, this is pretty fucked up, if anything. Well, the thing is that these characters, aside from the fact that they're just broken, and, you know, they have their own problems, the thing is that the barrier of communication is a heavy one. Noi is Thai, obviously, so she speaks Thai. Kenji is Japanese, so of course the dude speaks Japanese. And their only way to communicate is through very, very broken English and occasionally a few dips in Thai here and a few dips in Japanese here. And you're wondering, okay, well, they can't communicate very well. They're pretty much fucked. What exactly is so perfect about these two, aside from the fact that they're two lonely people actually finding each other? You know what I mean? Well, the fact is that the way how they break through the communication barrier. It's like everything they do. It's the feeling of the movie that just drives these two people closer. I mean, granted, these two characters do speak pretty fucking shitty English, but it's the fact that their situations are so alike that they can communicate so well, and the fact that they're so lonely, they can kind of poke at each other about that. You know, this isn't really a spoiler. Kenji's brother gets killed by some Yakuza affiliated person, and, you know, Noi's sister's dead. They can pretty much connect on that note. They can poke fun at each other's English. They can really, dive here and there on their progress in learning Thai and Japanese back to back. They spend more and more time with each other, and they snoop around in each other's business a bit. It's like the nosiness and the curiosity that pushes these two together more so than their god awful English, you know. So it's not really a situation where they have to speak to each other. I mean, you know, they do have to speak to each other, but it's more so the situation speaking for itself. You know, we know what they're going through. We know their troubles, and we know that these are lonely people. So the situation is kind of it's just naturally forming around these two, you know? So it's kind of like their connection, the way how they come together. It was kind of inevitable. The connection that they form is kind of irreversible. It was bound to happen. Do you know what I mean? I mean, granted, it started at a rough start. You know, they really didn't know each other. So of course they're going to have to get accustomed to being in each other's presence. But overall, the connection between the two, it's definitely inevitable. You know, these characters, it's perfect chemistry. You know, it works perfectly in the movie. And like I always say, it's not really much if I just tell it to you. You know, you can really only experience the effect if you watch the movie. I'm telling you, these two characters work really well to each other. And that's really, and it's very impressive because, like I said, their English sucks. They can't really speak Thai or Japanese. So it's like, how do they communicate? Well, watch the movie, watch the situations they go through, watch how they get closer. You'll see what I mean. Now, on to the other thing. What else is so great about this movie? The cinematography. Now, let me talk about this for a second because I have a huge hard-on for cinematography, especially the cinematographer behind this movie. The cinematographer for this movie was Christopher Doyle, and for a lot of you film geeks, cinematography geeks, cinematographer geeks, whatever, you'll know that this guy worked on films such as Lady in the Water, the remake of Psycho, that piece of shit, Hero, Paranoid Park, a neat little Chinese movie called Green Tea, another one of Pinx films called Invisible Waves, which, by the way, I was not very fond of, but that's another story. And last but not least, pretty much most of Wong Kar-wai's movies. I mean, As Tears Go By, Days of Being Wild, In the Mood for Love, 2046, Chungking Express, Fallen Angels, Ashes of Time. All of these movies, man, I mean, whatever Christopher Doyle points the camera at, it's fucking gold. This man, look, let me tell you something. This man has had like no prior experience with like going to some kind of school for photography or cinematography or what have you. He just picked up a camera one day and just started working his magic. I mean, this is natural talent. This man has natural talent all over him. I mean, his signature style for movies, well, as far as I'm concerned, his signature style for a lot of Wong Kar-wai's movies, including this one, he has this thing where he makes the colors oversaturated, and that's fucking awesome. But in this one, the thing with in the Last Life in the Universe is that it's a very bleak movie. It's very gray, very colorless, very lifeless. But the thing is, Christopher Doyle manages to capture these images, twists them in his own unique way, and make them as full of life as you can imagine. Every shot, this bleak and gray world is full of so much life, and it's so visual and it's so beautiful to look at that this man is amazing. You know, every fucking thing he does, I love. You know, if there's any cinematographer like him in the future, man, God help us all, because there would be so many beautiful looking movies to just look forward to. Christopher Doyle needs to be studied. Let me tell you guys something. He needs to be studied. I mean, come on, just look at the cover of the movie. You know you love it. All right, now I gotta talk about the soundtrack for a bit. Now, another great charm, that this movie carries with it is the soundtrack. Now, let me start off with something. When I first watched the movie, I was watching it for the first time on my laptop. By the way, watching movies on laptops, that's fucking stupid. Don't do that. I was watching the movie on my laptop, and I'm sitting here like, okay, well, this movie seems like it's going to be very atmospheric. I'm digging the very minimalistic score it has going on. And as soon as it gets to the opening credits, as soon as that first chord is played, I am instantly hit with gloom, sadness, depression, loneliness. Every single thing that the movie makes you want to feel, I am hit with it 100%. I mean, the soundtrack itself does such a good job at carrying a punch. Like, if it's not the visuals itself, not the Greek depressing world, not the lonely characters, not the idea itself, it's the soundtrack that'll definitely make you feel like shit. It'll make you feel like a lonely soul. It'll make you feel just as down as Kenji and Noi, man. The soundtrack, it's beautiful. It's like this little... it's not a synthesizer, but I can't really describe the sound. It's just something you'd have to hear for yourself. But aside from that, the soundtrack is beautiful. It's one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, especially for a film like this, man. It works so well. Look, you guys, take a quick listen to a piece of the score. I never get tired of it. I can listen to it all day. Well, not all day, but if I want to get into the mood for something emotional or something with atmosphere, or just some ambient kind of thing, this is definitely one of the soundtracks I go to. It's amazing. I definitely recommend listening to the soundtrack if you haven't seen this. Well, actually, let me rephrase that a bit. Hold off on the soundtrack because the soundtrack's really not nothing. I mean, the soundtrack is really nothing until you see the movie itself. So, once you see that, then that's when I recommend going out and looking for the soundtrack because it's spot on. Takeshi Miike had a cameo. Yes, the dude who's made fucked up movies like Ichi the Killer, Audition, Visitor Q, these kinds of movies, Gozu. This guy who's made all of these screwed up, bizarre, strange, incomprehensible movies, he has a cameo in a beautiful, atmospheric, amazing romance, and I think that's funny. I think it's all. I think most of it just has to do with Tadanobu Asano. I mean, if it weren't for him, I really doubt Miike would have his hand in this movie at all. But that's kind of a funny thing. So if you're a fan of Takeshi Miike, you'll definitely enjoy his cameo in this movie. But yeah, man, that about wraps it up for The Last Life in the Universe. It's a unique and beautifully shot, beautiful, atmospheric romance. One of my favorites of all time. The thing with this movie is that it's a bit slow, if you couldn't tell. A lot of foreign movies, especially from Asia, tend to be. But, it's a slow movie, but it's well worth it. The movie's rich with atmosphere, and, the cinematography is gorgeous. The characters are great. You can't help but to love them. So with that in mind, I just say give it a watch. If you're up for something like this, if you're up for a good movie with something that's worth digging deep for, go for it. Trust me, it's worth it. And this has been a Lynch World video. I apologize for the hiatus, and I want to give a special thank you for all the people who have just subscribed, all like 23 of my subs. Yeah, it's a small number, but when you're new, when you're doing something like this, it's huge. And I just hope the numbers continue to grow. So if you like my videos, like, comment, subscribe, share. do whatever. If you're a film lover, this is the channel for you. You know, all I do is talk about films. You know, anything, don't matter. New, old, shitty, great, it don't matter. I just like talking about films. So anyway, subscribe and I will see you later.